I'm Aditi and I'm a book potato. Today I'm just going to talk about this book, A Passage to India. It is a major colonialist text of the 20th century written by E.M. Forster and has been titled on a poem by Walt Whitman of the same title, A Passage to India. Well, I call this a brilliant work because it has revealed so much about the English society, especially about those English high officials who were stationed in India during the British Raj. The plot revolves around Dr. Aziz, who is a doctor working in a government hospital in Chandrapur, and it is basically about his friendship with Mr. Fielding, who is a principal of a government college in the same place, and then he goes on to develop more friendship with Mrs. Moore and Miss Adela Quested, whom he invites over to a picnic trip to the Marabar Caves, because it was Miss Quested who actually started the whole story by wanting to see the real India. And it was Miss Quested who took the story far by facing a very odd kind of a situation inside the caves, where even she stays confused and dazed about what had actually happened inside. And at the end of the story, it is even not clear that what had actually happened inside the caves. The plot, therefore, is not that complicated. It is simple, but at the same time, Forster has left the caves incident as very cloudy, yes, very hazy, because it's not very clear what had actually happened inside. But then, when we go through the work, then a few things are very evident, and it's mostly about the colonialist structure. It's mostly about the racial tension, and it's about how friendship overcomes all of these problems. And then we can see how India is struggling for freedom, and we can also see that there is a Hindu-Muslim divide, and then even the English society is divided between the Orientals and the Occidentals, because it's Mr. Fielding's character which represents the Oriental side, and we can actually see that the English society the majority of them wanted to dismiss the Oriental ideas and dismiss Indians as human beings, or should I say, the English society was not ready to treat India as its equal. But this is where Forster puts in Fielding's voice, and we can see that it's Fielding who is ready to leave the English society, the English club, but join the Indian celebrations and festivities just like the locals. Forster has done an excellent job by exposing the British society through the characters of Ronnie Hayslope, the Turtons, the McBrides, and even Adela Quested to some extent, because see that these people have lost their humanity just because they're not ready to treat the Indians as equals, and then they are ready to find everything wrong with the Indian society just because it's somewhat different from them. And this is where they think that they are doing a rather very good thing to India by trying to rule it, because yes, a sense of superiority, you can say. And this is what the whole novel talks about. It kind of makes a joke out of it, but then at the same time, Forster has like beautifully sketched the society, the Anglo society living in India, especially for the Turtons. They seem to be residing in India for the past 20 years, and therefore they have been called as the little gods of Chandrapur, and none of the officials have any power to refuse their ideas. So we can see that Forster is exposing the good and the bad of the English society, but then he ends up a little bit how should I say, he ends up stereotyping the Indian characters. Yes, because on the one side he has portrayed the realities, the goods and the bads and the grays of the English society, but then he ends up stereotyping the natives. Yes, because through Dr. Aziz's character, he shows an overly dramatic kind of a person, and then there's a character of Hamidullah, who is a lawyer by profession, but then a Forster decides to give him too much of passion, too much of feeling, where he ends up leaving the trial just because he is unable to handle his emotions. Yes, so this, all of it looks way too stereotyped. Even Forster could not get rid of the stereotypes he had, like the English society had in general. Well, I don't blame Forster for being an Oriental, but even being an Oriental ends up stereotyping the Indians, because the Oriental mindset is actually an Occidental mindset which wants to trust the native set, and then they have their own judgments. Forster has been unable to get rid of the stereotyping, and therefore he ends up showing Fielding as the only character who has freedom of thoughts, and while we are unable to see this in any of the Indian characters he has portrayed in his novel. So this has kind of put me off, because even though he has tried to raise his voice for the natives, but then he has not been able to get rid of the stereotypes. So this is where, as an Indian reader, I am a little bit upset. But then this novel opens up a different kind of a window to the whole structure of colonialism, of the rulers and the ruled, and then how both of these two sides had to pay differently. Just because they wanted to own everything and rule everything, they lost their own individualities, and they ended up being burdened by the white man's burden. And it is that kind of liberty which gets taken away from them. And it shows how the white man's burden takes away the liberty of the English individuals. So I'll call this an interesting read, because it gives us a very appropriate picture of the English society. But then if you're not an Indian reader, then I'll simply say that it holds some kind of stereotypes regarding the native characters. So have a happy reading.